Hi there. Gnostics believe in transcendence, in a transcendent Lord. And so, in the name of Adonai, which simply means the Lord, because the name of the Lord cannot be pronounced by any being in this particular realm of the demiurge. So, that's simple enough. In the name of Adonai is our only hope and salvation. The Shekinah is the Holy Spirit, of course, in Hebrew, which I probably haven't spelt right. But that is also our only hope and salvation. And Yeshua, which is the revealer or the prophet, is our only hope of salvation. And the most important power of transcendence is forgiveness. And from forgiveness arises freedom, spiritual freedom, emotional freedom, and cognitive freedom, and intuitive freedom, which leads, of course, to a state of transcendence in the here and now. Forgiveness must be extended to yourself. You have acted in ignorance, in despair, and fear, which are the characteristics of life in the realm of the demiurge. So forgiveness of yourself, of your own trespasses, even as you forgive those who have trespassed against you, who are known as the wicked, for they do not know what they do. And I love the word wicked. It's a very good. It's also applies to oneself, of course. So wicked and to oneself. But the wicked must be forgiven because they are also acting in fear, ignorance, greed, and despair. The world is broken. The world is founded on scarcity. There is something wrong with this particular world, this material world, which gives rise to the wicked, which gives rise to your own ignorant actions, your own despairing actions, your own actions that are born out of fear. Then there's the forgiveness of the shadow. This needs some explanation. I love this. I love the metaphor of A.J. Rowling's Harry Potter series of characters or creatures called the Dementors, who suck all the good out of the world as they suck all the good out of their victims. There is something about the Dementors which is particularly terrifying, particularly effective within the stories. And the stories, of course, were originally created for, I don't know, for 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds. So Rawlings couldn't make them too terrible. But in fact, they are actually very terrible. The Dementors are probably the worst characters in the whole 7 novels, really. At first, they're not shown in all their full grisliness, but I think by the 3rd book they are. And in a way, they're even worse than Voldemort, as I call them, or Baldy. They're worse than him, really. And because they also work to so-called protect Hogwarts School and protect not the Muggles, but magicians from the worst black magicians that are around. There's even something rather sort of sickening about the fact that they represent some sort of protection. Although why would one want to be protected by such hideous creatures? I have no idea. But they suck all the good out in the world, and I call them the shadows, or the shadow, because within each of us there is something that there is a sort of, I don't know, creeping chaos or something which sucks our life out. It could be a memory, it could be, post-traumatic stress disorder, which it probably is. It's some kind of existential angst or some kind of unresolved, or it could be guilt as well. unresolved guilt. And it manifests itself psychically as the shadow. And it does exactly what the Dementors do. It just sucks all your energy out, makes you very passive, apathetic, lethargic. Um, you know, gives you ennui and gives you sort of, I don't know, just makes you incapable of doing anything creative, really. And it can really, really. I suppose it's the agent of depression. I mean, people literally can't get up in the morning. So it's a relative thing. Some people have the shadow very badly, and other people have it less so. But it doesn't really matter whether it's relative or absolute, because to the person who has the shadow upon them, to any great extent, it's pretty absolute to them. So it's no good saying to people, well, you're not as bad as person over there. It doesn't really, really make that much difference. So forgiveness is extended to the shadow. And of course, forgiveness is extended to he who will not be named here, but is sometimes called the Demiurge, who created the broken world in the first place. And this, this creature is a misshapen, mishapped, misguided, miss everything really, misdirected, and any word which starts with miss or dis, basically, can be an adjective which describes this creature that made this world. And again, forgiveness is extended, and forgiveness is really understanding as well. It's not just an emotional. Well, it does lead to emotional freedom, but it's also an understanding. But it's also a condemnation for sure. So it's an understanding, it's a knowledge of why things go wrong, but it's also a condemnation of it, hence the word, the wicked. I think about that word, wicked. It's a great word, that. It has a sort of humorous connotation nowadays, which I think is rather good, because you've got to sort of laugh at the tyrants, really. They're called the wicked, and they know that they are, but they don't know what they're doing anyway, that's for sure. So forgiveness is not just emotional freedom, it's an understanding, it's a cognition, and it is a spiritual practice. It is something that has to be cultivated, a virtue which in Latin means a skill. So there's a skill attached to forgiveness. Consciously, there's a consciousness that needs to be cultivated with it. And there's some excellent videos on YouTube about forgiveness, especially there's a TEDx talk that I've forgotten entirely what it's called, but that's a brilliant talk on forgiveness. You have to see that one. It's a bit of a life-changing experience to see it. So forgiveness is something which starts in the self, and expands outwards and upwards to embrace the Shekinah and Yeshua and Adonai. So it's part of the essence of the spiritual transcendent nature, which is something to cultivate, because then it gives the transcendent helpers something to attach themselves to, as it were. It's like you kind of create a ladder for yourself to walk up. But the ladder is also co-created with other beings that help you. And all this is sort of something to do with the Kabbalah as well, in some strange fashion, which I've yet to discern myself. And something also to do with vibrating, the three great words, Ein Sofer, Ein Sofer, Ein Sof, Ayin. So something to do with vibrating those particular power words, because they're very transcendent, and perhaps connect you to the name of Adonai, the transcendent God himself, or itself, or herself, or however you want to say it. So that's kind of important as well. But forgiveness is certainly a release. It's a release of energy. It's a release of physical energy. It's a release of psychosomatic energy, as one might say. It's also the only rational thing to do. And it's also the only rational, well, it's a rational thing to do in light of one's understanding of why things go wrong. And yet also forgiveness does not preclude condemnation either, which is also something which has to be, you know, has to be looked at, as well as your own guilt. So that is real too. And as the Jews say, you stand in judgment before the Lord whenever you pray to the Lord. There is this sort of judgment comes in, but it's a judgment which is also suspended, actually, through unconditional love. So there is a judgment there, there is a guilt there, but then after that it's suspended, and forgiveness reigns supreme over this broken world.